Hello, welcome to the LawyerFair Daily Podcast. I'm Andrew Weaver, CEO of LawyerFair.co.uk, and I'm going to paint very briefly a scenario, a bit of background to today's guest. So you're making progress in your career as a legal journalist. You're employed within the hallowed halls of no less an institution than The Guardian, and then you decide, I'm going to take a punt. I'm going to launch a legal blog, a legal website, with its tongue firmly planted in its cheek. And here we are, a little more than 3 or 4 years later. 22,000 Twitter followers, a few ruffled legal feathers, and the occasional FT name check. And I'm welcoming today publisher and founder of Legal Cheek, Alex Aldridge. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Andrew. Hi, thanks for having me on.
Not at all. That was a very rather fumbled intro about part of your journey. But give us the more authoritative angle on when you started, what you were doing, and where Legal Cheek is going.
Yeah, well, I started 4 years ago, and I was working at the time for The Guardian. Also, I was the UK correspondent of Above the Law, which is the biggest legal website in the US, biggest legal news website in the US. And there's nothing like that in the UK, and they were looking at launching in the UK. They decided not to, partly because of our terrifyingly draconian defamation laws. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to have a crack at this. So I started it in my, as you know, in my kitchen in my flat, knocking out these blog posts. And I'd been a follower of the legal blogging scene since 2006. I actually went to the first ever legal blogging conference back then. But the big thing was, at that point, because this was 2011 when I founded Legal Cheek, what had changed was all these blogs were being linked up through Twitter, and through Twitter they were reaching a much wider audience because they were getting then picked up beyond Twitter. And yeah, the time was right, and I had a crack. And 4 years on, here we are. We've got an office. There's 4 of us. We've got 20 advertisers, including a bunch of top City of London law firm graduate recruitment departments, and we're the most widely read legal news website among UK law students. So it's been great.
And I mean, you've got some really interesting features as well on the side. I mean, I quite like the top 60 most list, which I think is great, which covers kind of firms and chambers, doesn't it, in terms of a wide variety of data and information.
Yeah, that's been very popular with the firms and chambers. Yeah, so we've got all the diversity data. We're the first publication to have made that all transparent, and only we've got the salaries too, which has been done for slightly longer.
Yeah.
One of the most those most popular bits of those most lists is the kind of how many lawyers went to Oxbridge, which is quite interesting. You see, particularly the chambers are completely dominated by Oxbridge graduates.
Well, I noticed you got quite a lot of traffic on your recent article about that, didn't you? I mean, I think there were 60 or 70 comments alone on the article about diversity.
Yeah, I think when you mention Oxbridge in the headline, the story always tends to do well. We use it fairly sparingly, but I think there's a lot of, I don't know why lawyers are so obsessed with Oxbridge, and I think the ones who made it like to tell the rest of them kind of how great they are, yeah. And the ones who didn't quite make it are kind of still forever nurse that chip on their shoulder.
Well, we just the podcast we released today actually was with Gary Bell QC, who has a colourful past and a wonderful book out.
Yeah,
and he wrote it in The Guardian actually last week, which is why we picked up on it, about the fact that his path to success and social mobility is closing down more and more. And actually, when you see articles like the one you produced, I thought the bar was more diverse, and you see an article like that, and you see clearly in some areas it's not.
It's true. I suppose the one thing you do have to remember though is that Oxford and Cambridge are themselves doing a lot of work on social mobility. Yes. So just because a lawyer went to Oxbridge doesn't necessarily mean that they came from some very wealthy background. No,
that's a fair point. And I also noticed you've got a kind of I was going to do a Danny DeVito impression, off the record on the QT, kind of hush hush tip-off section. Does that get a lot of traffic, Alex? Are you kind of?
Oh, we get a lot of tip-off emails. Yeah.
Are you filtering a lot of dirt on a lot of people?
Oh yeah, obviously we can't publish everything. Some of the stuff we get is about people's personal lives, so we'll often won't publish that. That's not really our job, unless there's an issue about a top lawyer's personal life that's impacting on his or her practice area.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm hoping in the Black Book that LawyerFair, I mean, we're just too small. We're small fry, Alex. We haven't penetrated your tip-off section, I suspect, just yet.
Oh well, we get all sorts, but I don't even know. You mean you're a fast growing company doing well. So I suppose that's becoming almost like a mark of a sort of rite of passage appearing in Legal Cheek.
I think absolutely. I think I'd like to be in your black book just because it means we're around and we're making a bit of a noise. So what's the future for Legal Cheek, Alex? What's going to happen in the next year or two?
Well, I suppose it's to. I think a lot of all the students realise how popular Legal Cheek is because they all read it, and that's true also for the trainees and pupil barristers. And hopefully over the next couple of years that people are going to, in the more senior positions in firms, they'll realise, how hugely read Legal Cheek is. 500,000 page views we had last month alone.
Wow.
And that was something like 230,000 unique visitors. So, other sites are very coy about their traffic, but my understanding is that is not far away from the lawyer. And I'm not talking about Lawyer to Be, I'm talking about the lawyer. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to start to dawn in the legal market. I mean, we got mentioned in the Financial Times last week, name checked, some of the stats we used, and they linked to Legal Cheek, been mentioned in the Times about 5 times this year. The Evening Standard seems like every month these days, and I think that is starting to dawn on people in the legal market. And I think 2-3 years from now, we're looking at maybe not. Certainly, I'd say the likes of Legal Week dropping away. They've cancelled their print edition and they've moved to this kind of paid-only app. I think it's going to become. My prediction is that it'll be Legal Cheek and the Lawyer as the dominant publications in legal publishing for news.
Well, you've obviously done the grafting, getting your numbers up to that. Now it's a question of making sure people are aware of it, isn't it? That's the kind of next driver.
The fact that the numbers are so high, that implies that people are indeed aware of it.
Indeed.
But our challenge is making sure the senior decision makers are aware of it. But it's getting there. We've got an event coming up at Lincoln's Inn in October, and Lord Newburger, head of Supreme Court, who is a big Legal Cheek reader, is speaking at our event. So, we are getting out there to those senior members of the profession.
Well, I enjoy reading it very much, and as you probably know, we retweet quite a lot of the Legal Cheek stuff. So, we're big supporters of it. And
Good
Alex, I'm very thankful for you joining us. I know you've had a busy day. So it's just to be absolutely clear, the web, the URL for Legal Cheek is.
Well, just Google it. We're up. If you even just Google legal, we're up there. I think like the 3rd result, because that so powerful is our Google ranking, and that's because we get so much traffic. So just Google legal and drop down to Legal Cheek, and you'll see us.
Well, that's a great way to finish it. Alex, thanks again for your time.
Okay,
all
cheers,
thanks a lot.
Andrew. Bye.
Well, that was the LawyerFair Daily Podcast. Thank you for listening. There will be more tomorrow.